It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Tuesday, July 23rd, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content. It's talking about the Flyers' Russian prospects yet again.
Uh-oh.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. We are at Locked On Flyers on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky as well. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. You can find us over on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, on yesterday's show, we talked about the ones that got away. We have our weekly poll related to that for the ones that we got here. So your favorite Flyer acquired, who had an identity most significantly with another team that came over to the Flyers. So make sure you vote in that. The link to it is in the show notes and it's over on our YouTube channel. In the meantime, I don't know if you would call it hell breaking loose, but it's certainly like jiggling a little bit here.
Oh no, it's rocking. I'll give it that.
Yeah.
It's rocking.
Yeah. So Matvei Michkov is the first topic of conversation here because there have been some additional rumors spread around about him in relation to a conversation about Demidov for the Montreal Canadiens. So there's reporting out there from Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette that they're trying to get Demidov over to North America, and they're trying to work out something with their KHL deal over there. And Stu Cowan compared it to what the Flyers did with Michkov, implying that the Flyers paid some sort of fee to get Michkov out of his KHL contract, which that is quite a thing to suggest, given that it is against the CBA.
Is it though? Yeah. I mean, look, we all know how things used to work, and I think they still work the same way. And I think Steve knows that too.
Yeah, I think that there are ways around it, right? Where the Flyers pay, Michkov as part of his, bonuses, and then the Michkov passes it through his agent fees to the KHL team, right? There are ways around
No,
this.
that's for other people that you have to pay off. That's not for the league, but that's a whole other show.
Yeah, it's there are ways, but at the same time, I think that bringing that back up at this time is just additional churn around the Flyers and Russia and the KHL and all of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is, there's all these things are just like little stumbling blocks that could come up. There's no problem with Michkov. He'll be here. Demidov, yeah, it might, that might take a year. So Montreal may not get him right away. That's all.
Right. And I think that in Montreal's case, it's a little different in the sense that Demidov could make the main roster this year.
Yes.
For his KHL team. And if he does so, it would make sense for him to stay over there for that additional year.
Right.
And then come over. There were some questions for Michkov and his situation, if he would make it, if they supported him. And so I think that was more the impetus here. I think the hockey playing of these two guys is different and their situations are different.
It is different.
Right?
Yes. And it is different situations too. I totally agree with that.
So I think, it's a little bit jumping the gun to make a more direct comparison between the two situations.
Right.
But I think that, adding to this churn was certainly a choice.
I mean, I will just say I never considered Demidov coming over this year, and I still don't think he's coming over this year. So that's just me.
Yeah, I think that is entirely possible. But at the same time, that the discussions around this were churning. Matvei Michkov posts a picture of himself on an airplane implying he is going somewhere. And where could that be, Russ?
Well, I mean, he did say a few days ago that, on the 20th, if things went right, that he'd be soon boarding a flight and coming here. So it's possible he could, be here in the next few days, and you'll see a picture of him in Voorhees, and then everybody will be happy.
Yeah, I think, we're recording this in the afternoon on Monday. So things could take, a turn or
Yeah.
whatnot, in between
We
now.
don't time travel on this show.
No, I wish we could,
It'd
though.
be awesome.
I have a model TARDIS on my shelf behind me, if you're on YouTube, but I don't have an actual one, unfortunately. But that being said, I think that obviously we'll cover it if things change and he is going to be over here. But for now, we just got to pump the brakes a little bit, and it'll happen when it happens. We know it's going to, so it's not a question, like you said.
Right.
But continue to be excited about it. I think that the Flyers are going to want to make the biggest noise about this possible, and so there's work going into whatever plans they're making around it, an announcement, whether it's at Voorhees, whether it's at the Wells Fargo Center, which I also think is possible, that something would occur there, and making sure that it's able to be covered at like the big splash that it's going to be, right?
Hmm. Yeah, it'll be a big splash. I don't think it'll be a big splash like at the airport. I don't think John Clark will be there waiting for him at the airport. I don't think it's going to be like that.
Well, I certainly think that people will be tracking flights if that is a thing that is
It's going to be hard to
possible to
track it
do.
because you don't really know. He's not flying direct. And if he flies
Correct.
direct, it's going to probably go to JFK. It's not going to go to Philly. And so then you're not going to know when he's coming. You know what I mean? I don't think it's a trackable situation.
Well, I people on the internet are very resourceful, so I do
Sure.
think anything is
Well, I mean, if
possible
someone spots
on
him at
that front.
JFK and then they see him getting on another plane
Yeah.
going to Philly, then maybe sure, if they do that kind
Yeah.
of detective work.
I mean, if he flies into JFK, he's getting in a car and getting driven down. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, most likely.
that would be most likely the case.
And it
But
would be that guy Dom who, does all the Eagle stuff.
right. Um
I'm not even
I
getting into his whole thing.
right.
Let's just leave that alone.
Listen, if I see him in New York on the streets, I will let you know.
There you go. Yeah, he might go to Brooklyn first for all we know. Who knows?
I don't know if he's going to Brooklyn, but I'll
No,
be around Times Square. So if he shows
Brooklyn's
up,
where the action is.
but at any rate, I think that there will be a more settled plan for this for the Flyers. So if he's flying over now and they do something in a couple of days to make the big announcement, he'll probably lay low
Yeah,
between now and then, or if it's next week, who knows?
right.
But all the right players have to be in town, and everybody just left on their vacations. So I think there's that as well. In other news around the league that does affect the Flyers to some degree because it's a division rival, Columbus finally has a coach in Dean
Yay.
Anderson, and so I think it's a choice. I think it'll help them in the short term, but I don't think he's a long term success story
I mean, it's a very mid kind of
coach.
hire. It
Mhm.
really is. And so, if you're a fan, you can't get too fired up. It's just you're happy you have a coach. Will he teach anything to the real higher end players? Maybe. But on the flip side of that, um, there's going to be a point where they're going to outgrow him, I think,
Yeah,
like you're
I think
saying.
so too.
Yeah.
I think that, they do have a really good prospect pool there. And I think it's going to get to a point where there's nothing he can do to put it
Yeah.
together,
Yeah.
which is kind of his MO. But okay, Columbus, you do you. Anyway, we've got more conversation about the Flyers' Russian prospects, plus an update to our World Junior Summer Showcase report from last Friday. We'll get to all that coming up later in the show.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers.
We will be answering your mailbag questions on tomorrow's show, so make sure you get those in. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com, send us a message on Twitter, or comment over on our YouTube channel. So, unfortunately, Russ, we still have to discuss Alexei Kolosov,
Yep.
and I think, discuss some of the implications here, because we have had continuing reports that Alexei Kolosov, doesn't want to come back to the Flyers because of not getting an opportunity last season. He doesn't feel like there's room for him. And with the Ivan Fedotov contract extension, that kind of solidified him as Sam Erson's backup to a large degree. And that is a fair question for Kolosov to be
Yeah,
asking.
we've talked about it a long time
Right.
ago.
Right. So what do you think, like, this latest sort of additional report about him means for the
Well,
status of things?
I think it means he's not coming over this year. And now the Flyers have to hope they retain his rights, even if they're going to trade him. But now that's a hope because, again, the KHL can do whatever the heck they want. I know the Flyers have the rights to him. I know it's a contract. You're not going to go to Russia and sue. So, honestly, the best thing the Flyers could do is say, Alexei, go ahead and stay there. We'll retain your rights and we'll trade you. And that would be the best thing they could do. They're not going to get much, but at least you get something. Otherwise, I think the rights hold for, like, I don't know, 7 years or something. I'm not exact on that, but he could wait it out. Like, he could just wait until the rights are up and then come over, or never come over, and then you never get anything. So,
Well, there's that too,
yeah,
right?
right. And so, and that's a scenario now that, wasn't there maybe, when he was playing for Lehigh. So, yeah, none of it's great. And it's one of those that I don't think they could afford to have happen, only because I think there could be a domino effect here. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. So we do have goaltenders in Lehigh Valley right now. Now, we
Mhm.
hoped that it was going to be Cal Peterson and Alexei Kolosov, with Alexei Kolosov being the prioritized goaltender
Right.
and whatnot. But which I think honestly would have been a good spot for him to be in next year. And that's where I'm a little confused, just because we know that just because Fedotov has a contract and just because Sam Ersson has a contract doesn't mean the Flyers are going to stick with them. And I think that
Well, but
if it,
he's going he's probably going by that, and maybe we have to, understand that maybe he just doesn't like Lehigh Valley, like he didn't
well,
feel like
that
he
is
fit in.
also true.
And
Yeah,
that's different than Philadelphia, right? It's a whole different
right.
vibe.
Totally. Totally. Now that's a fair point. If he's like, I'm not going to play my best hockey in Lehigh Valley, I'm not going to develop properly, it's not a good environment for me, then honestly, going back to the KHL makes sense, and the
Right.
Flyers retaining his rights. If it's more of a, I got to do what's right for me from a hockey perspective and from a living perspective, and there's some sort of mutual agreement with the Flyers, that does make sense to me. But if it's like a the Flyers screwed me over situation, that's a different
Well, I
story.
don't think that's whether he feels that way or not, and we'll never get the story, honestly. I think the cover story is going to be what we're talking about here, and that's where he's going to try and get out of the contract altogether, and
Right.
that's where we'll see what happens.
Right. So then that brings us to the next question, which is like, what does that mean for the Flyers as an organization, especially given the Cutter Gauthier situation as well? Like, does that compound things in terms of the Flyers' relationship with prospects Or is this just bad luck, right?
Well, it could be bad luck, but it's happened to two prospects possibly now. And so you do worry about like Zavragan. You don't know, like, yeah, he's doing great. There's no agreement in place for him. Who knows if he's friends with Kolosov or they have a similar agent and again, this could compound that. So like someone like Bjarnason, you don't worry about that.
Right.
That's going to be fine. But anybody overseas, especially Russia, mostly Russia, you have to worry about. They have another goalie over there. So that could really hamper future plans. It can.
Right. And that's where I question, okay, like what's the Venn diagram here? Is this a goaltender thing? Or
Oh,
is this
don't start using
or
fancy words like Venn diagram. People, you can look that up. I mean, I don't even know if people use Venn
everybody knows
diagrams
what a Venn
anymore.
diagram is.
No, I
Come on.
disagree with that. No, no.
Like what's the overlap of, is this a goaltender issue? Is this a Russia issue? Is this a prospects issue? Like
It's all of it.
right. Well, is this, but all of these bad for the Flyers right now, or not? I wouldn't say bad, but not ideal
It's
right
not
now
ideal.
for
I
the
think,
Flyers. And is it a little bit of all of that, or is it that the Flyers have a singular problem with one of those things above the other two?
well, I mean, again, we would have to be able to really break it down. We don't have 100% of all the information, so they know. What I would say is, if it were me, and I always make it like I'm in charge, I would now have to look at maybe having sort of like an outreach program, hire a person, somebody who could deal with all of this, not just say,
For
"Hey,
what though?
I'll I'll get there." I'm just
Okay.
saying, not just saying, "Hey, we could use this ex player like Eric Johnson who's got a similar agent to take care of you." No, no, no. Like have somebody like assigned to all of these players, call them, keep in touch, set up their living arrangements, try and set up even someone to be with them if that means someone from the team, whatever. All of those kinds of things, do it all in advance so that player feels like so comfortable that there's no issue for them coming over. Would it cost a little bit? Yeah, it would, but they have the money, and I think it might be money well spent because then I think it would alleviate that, and then I think there would be no problem with anybody else signing because they would be like, "Oh, look what they do for you here. It's unbelievable." But right now, and that would be, I wouldn't want to say unprecedented because I'm sure teams do some of that, but it might be a way to sort of get it going better.
Well, so that's where my question lies. Is this somebody dedicated to all prospects, or is this somebody dedicated to Russians in particular and the cultural things that you need to add to make Russians feel more welcome in
I'd
the
say
Flyers
all European.
organization?
I would say all European prospects
Okay,
because, like, remember Elias Anderson? It got to the point where he didn't want to play for the Rangers anymore, and
right.
he felt out of sorts. We have to always remember. I know we brought it up on the show, but for people who haven't heard, I'm going to bring it up again. When you're like a 19, 20, even a 21-year-old, and you're from another country, and all of a sudden you're here, and maybe you're not even rooming with somebody that has the native tongue. You don't really have any friends yet. You really don't know anybody on the team. You might have texted a few times or Instagram, but that's not the same. Everyday life is hard. Away from the rink, everyday life is a challenge. Plus, you're a rookie, and some people it doesn't work for at all. Some it takes a while, and it affects their play. And so that's what I'm really talking about here.
Right. And so I guess that's where I think, the source of my question comes from is it's very hard to make things universal when these cases have very specific issues. But if you're saying, well, it's like a European players thing and we're going to, deal with some of the cultural
Right.
situations, like that does make a lot of
Because the
sense to me. I
Flyers, who
mean,
knows? They may draft somebody from another country that's never been drafted ever before in the NHL. They'd be ahead of the game then.
right. So yeah, I'm not sure like what teams have along this front now. But if the Flyers don't have something along those lines, that's something beyond a logistics person and something beyond their player
Yeah, more
development
than a
staff.
travel agent and more than a guy on the team saying, I'll show him around. I'll text him a few times. more than that.
Yeah, but also more than a player development coach, right?
Correct.
So it's some
He's got
sort
that.
of
He
like
or she has that to worry
combination
about.
of the
Right.
two,
Yeah.
right?
Player development's player development. They got to worry about that. This is all
Yeah.
off ice stuff.
Right. So I think there's something to be said for that. I think it would be really interesting. I think it would be helpful. And I think it would go a long way for future prospects. I think
I mean, you want me to
that
get real corporate? When I used to be in charge and I have to, like, this is going back to the hotel industry, and I had to, like, set in something that hadn't been done before, I would write up the whole policies and procedures. I would create this new mechanism now. And
Mhm.
that's what I'm talking about. Someone has to create the mechanism. Everybody talks about it. They refine it. They talk to other teams even. They say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Or if you don't want to talk to other teams, that's fine. But whatever. Everybody signs off on it. And now this is the way we do it. But you have to start doing it from somewhere.
Yeah, I think so. I just also think that there has to be some specialization to it. And
Mhm.
on the flip side, on the hockey side of things, I think, you look at some of these decisions and it's about opportunity, right? And maybe, I don't know for sure, but maybe some of these prospects are not seeing the opportunity to move up because whether it's because of coaching, whether it's because of the organizational decision to keep people kind of in the minors or with junior longer than maybe some of these kids would like. There's any number of these
Well,
issues. If it's an opportunity problem, that is a slightly more difficult problem to solve.
right. But as an example, every player, all the college free agents, everybody, they're all looking for opportunity. And if they do feel like it's not there, they're going to voice that to their people, or their people are going to tell them that. I think it's pretty obvious um, with what happened with Kolosov last year that that was a partial issue. Like, and again, nothing's changed. And now the Flyers have signed an additional goalie. Now, granted, Gahagan could go to the ECHL, but here's the
Mhm.
thing, Rachel. Without saying you're the number one, which they could if they wanted to, but then Ian LePerrier might have a problem with that. If Kolosov shows up, there's no guarantee he is the number one because he didn't play in the playoffs. See that it goes back to that, like from the player's mentality. So he goes in, he has to now win the spot. I know everybody's going to be like, well, that's tough. They got to do that. They got to work their way up, whatever. Yeah, that's fine. But he's got a guaranteed spot in Russia where he's going to play all the time.
Yep. Totally.
So that's an
Yep.
edge for him. So why should
Yep.
he have to?
Yep.
He's,
Totally.
that's his choice.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I think it remains to be seen what the longer term implications are here. We'll see what the Flyers have to say when Michkov comes over, and as it gets closer to the season about Kolosov. In the meantime, the World Junior Summer Showcase is happening later this week. We're going to
Yep.
get going with all that, and we have a couple editions from our show on Friday. We're going to talk about that coming up next. It's summer, which always makes me think of baseball, and especially with the Phillies being a ton of fun this season, I want to be there in person as much as possible. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace in Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last minute deals, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying those coveted MLB tickets in your town, summer concerts, and more. My favorite part of the Game Time app is that it's great for getting notified about last minute flash deals. Plus, they let you save even more with zone deals, where you pick a section and Game Time chooses your seat for you. Best of all, they have all in pricing, so there's no surprise fees at checkout, and your tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through email. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Russ. Last Friday, we talked about the Americans and Canadians going to the World Junior Summer Showcase And the Flyers prospects on that list, just a quick recap from Team USA, we had Noah Powell. From Team Canada, we had a nice long list of Carson Bjarnason, Oliver Bonk, Denver Barkey, Carter Sutherland, and newly drafted Jack Luchenko. So really excited for those two teams. At the time, it was not confirmed when we recorded about some of the other teams, but since then, we have learned that Jack Berglund, who was the Flyers' second round pick at 51st overall, the center, will be on Team Sweden. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he should have a good showing. The fact that he's physical is going to help him make the team. He's
Yeah.
pretty good offensively, but the physical part, the two-way play, hard to get the puck away from him. All that's going to trend well for him.
Right. And I think this is a really good opportunity for him to make a case to get a spot on Team Sweden at World Juniors this upcoming season. I think he could make that team.
Oh yeah,
And so I think it's important for him to have a really good tournament here.
agreed.
I think that they'll probably use him in a lot of different situations as well to get a feel based on what we saw at development camp with him. There's obviously stuff he needs to work on, but I'm sure if there's a PK situation, he will be out there and hopefully have that good showing. The other Flyers prospect that was added to the list is Heikki Ruohonen, the center picked by the Flyers in the 4th round, 107th overall. And he has had such a good career thus far. And as we met him at Dev Camp, he is raring to go and, really comfortable in North America and coming over to the USHL next season, then off to Harvard, super smart. So I think this will be a really good opportunity for him, to get more North American eyes on him.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance he can make it. I'm not going to say he's guaranteed because there's other players with similar skill sets, but he really could. He's a guy that has to show it a bit more, and there's no reason to think he won't.
Right, and he had a really good U18 Worlds, and this is, he's taken a step up to the U20 level, so in some ways it's starting over, but in some ways he can build off of what he has done thus far, and so I think, this is a really good opportunity for him, and, I think you're right that he's kind of borderline whether or not he'll make the World Junior squad, coming up in December, but a good showing here will plus, some success in the USHL will go a long way.
No question. I mean that would do something for him. Uh, I'll certainly watch him at the beginning of the year at the Fall Classic, and I'll report on it. So fans will get an idea. But yeah, that all helps. But this is the getting it going kind of part of it. He's got to start getting it going from now and then keep it going.
The one question that I have is related to the fact that he is playing in North America next season, so there won't be as many Finnish eyes on him on a regular basis, like some of the other guys that are playing in the Finnish league or maybe playing in the Swedish league or something that's closer, and that this team management will get to see. Do you think that could affect his prospect to make the team?
No, I think there's plenty of services out there where they'll be able to check out the video, and certainly his coach in the USHL will send him video packages, and so that part's easy. So yeah, I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah, I think so. But I think it's important to ask those questions as well. But in the meantime, getting excited about that tournament. And just a reminder, it will be streaming, but you do have to pay for it through
Yes.
usahockey.tv. It's about $30 for the whole tournament if you want to get it. But the tournament starts on Sunday of next weekend, and we will talk more about it as we get closer. That will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. Like I said, we'll have that mailbag on tomorrow's show, so make sure you get your questions in via email at lockedonflyers@gmail. Send us a message on Twitter or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube that's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Have a great day, everyone.